Well, I'm big on recycling. I think when we talk about recycling, one of the best ways to go green is financially. And I would like to see us recycle our money more. I've asked questions, and as far as economic development goes, I was asking about Margaritaville and how much linen, that they had to have cleaned weekly. And they were telling me they had to take 2 big trucks full of linen to Oklahoma City and back because no one in Tulsa can handle, that much linen. And I asked, I said, so how much do we spend a year just getting linen cleaned, say the sheets, the tablecloths, they have big conferences there and there's just a lot of linens, and then the employees, everything they wear, all these things have to be dry cleaned. And so we're spending like over $1 million a year. And so in my mind, it makes my wheels spin, and I'm thinking, why don't we create our own dry cleaning services somewhere that's locally, where we don't have to go all the way to Oklahoma City. We're spending a lot of gas. We're paying somebody, that's a lot of hours on the road back and forth. And it was a couple of times a week. I don't remember specifically, but I think that would create jobs. And whether it be within the Tulsa area, whether one of our communities pick it up, the little cards that they make, the players' cards, people, they give out so many of those daily. And I keep thinking about economic development and economic diversity, and I'm thinking, how can we create businesses where we already have the business right there and we just recycle our money? Instead of having all these outside vendors, we create businesses that match up with our other businesses, and we create jobs for our own people. And now I see, like with Oklahoma City, they have an embroidery shop, and I believe it's called Circle, something Circle Promotions. I can't remember exactly the name, but anyways, they do embroidery, they do silk screening, they make lanyards, which, our casinos give out hundreds of lanyards. They give out lots and lots of shirts, and I believe that they do a number of things, little mugs, you can get pens, you can get pencils, and so I put a plug in to the executive side and to the casinos and to our department heads, asking that we funnel business toward them. I think our last appropriation was over $200,000. And so we have invested initially in the foundation of this business for this economic development. And I believe we should be giving them as much as business as we can to develop a strong foundation. And they say, like, in the first 2 years, a new business will either sink or swim. And so if we want them to be successful, I think we're going to have to contribute to their foundation and, build it strong financially. And then, like, Eufaula sells water, the community. All of our water should be purchased from Eufaula. And you see the other nationalities, they're doing it, the African Americans, the Asians, the Hispanics. They support each other. They keep their money within their community. They've learned to do that and recycle their money. And you see other tribal nations doing that also. And I hope that we get on board with that, and I hope that we support each other and we create economic development where we don't always have to give out our money to other vendors. That was an experience in itself. And one of the things I seen happen was Miss Barnett was reprimanded. And to me, it was kind of saying, okay, we're going to reprimand you because of these people have rights, but you have none. And I think everybody should be able to face their accusers. She was accused of certain things, and by the Constitution says we have the right to face our accusers. I don't think it should have been confidential. I think it should have been out in the open. We keep asking for transparency. And I also think, how can you reprimand somebody for things you've done yourself? You know, one of the things I see and that I am concerned with what's going on in the council is presently, and this is just my opinion, it's my opinion that presently there are at least 2 individuals on the National Council who have jockeyed themselves into position in hopes to, in the future, run for chief and vice chief. And I think it has disrupted some things. I see kind of an inner circle of National Council members who are privy to certain information. There's a lot of meetings that go on behind closed doors that not all the council is involved in. And I believe as a council, we need to be educated and fully informed on issues so we can make an educated decisions when it comes to us. And so what I'm seeing is kind of like this, you know, I'll call it the inner circle, have kind of merged with the executive branch, and I think it's compromised boundaries. I think it's compromised the separation of power. I think, you know, our ancestors and everybody that put together our form of government had a reason to have 3 branches, and that the executive and the legislative should balance each other out and keep each other in check. But when you merge and you start sharing duties, I think, you know, boundaries are meshed and and things are compromised. And so what I would like to see in it all is I think it's great to have a great working relationship with the executive branch, but it should be the full council. Now, if this was happening and all the information was being disseminated to the council, I'd be happy about it. But I feel like there's things that we're not included in, and it makes you wonder, you know, because, you know, once you start looking at running for different offices, you begin to wonder and you think, well, are we doing things for the good of the people of the nation, or is this personal gain? And I see within our nation that a lot of things are done on a personal versus professional. I would call this place a professional working environment. This isn't a personal playground. And I believe a lot of things are handled personally. And so one of the things I aspire to look at, and I've been working on it, is at one time I had created legislation to do away with at-will termination, and it didn't make it past the BF&J committee. And so I've talked with some of our council people, and through our forums and through the recent campaign, you know, people ask and people wanted transparency, and people were talking about wrongful termination. And I hear a lot of cases that citizens feel like they were wrongfully terminated, that it was personal versus professional. And so I want to go back and revisit this legislation, and I'd like to see everybody have due process to have, you know, maybe a verbal reprimand, a written reprimand, an employee assistance where you sit down with the employee, and if they're not doing their job, then you tell them, this is your job, this is how you do it, and you help them. And I think the supervisors and their supervisors should be included in this process, because everybody's got to be accountable. If employees aren't necessarily doing what they're supposed to be doing, then why isn't their directors or managers making sure they are? Because that's part of their job. And so I'd like to see accountability on all levels and documentation. These things need to be documented. We can't keep going on, well, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. I think we've got a ways to go in that area. I heard a report the other night from One Fire, and you know, our initial investment for One Fire was $21 million, and one of the things that was dumped on them was Riverwalk. You know, the money that we gave them was more or less seed money to start up businesses, economic diversity, and bring you know, money into the nation. But that, you know, Riverwalk was dumped on them, and that's when Flying T's came along, and they were kind of like our anchor, to fill these shops. And so now everything's full and everything's running. And I think I don't have a big business background, but I would say I would leave it to the people who know business really well. And if there came a time that we could make a nice profit, recover it, I'd be for it. But I'd like to hear input from citizens also. I mean, I think, you never know with business. It might keep going well, it might not. If we needed to sell it and it was the best for the nation, then I would say yes. If not, I think it's just getting off on its feet also. And I think there's the potential that it'll keep doing better. So we'll see. I'm kind of on both sides on that. I don't say yes, let's sell it, or no, let's not sell it. It's still kind of in its infancy age, and the turnaround was pretty quick. So we'll see. I think we have to look at our history and know that when we came to this new country that there was, I think they said 44, maybe 44 tribal towns. And we all come from tribal towns. And there was no central Muscogee Creek Nation government back then. There was representatives from each town, and we are a confederacy of people. And as far as dual enrollment goes, I think there's some kinks and there's some things, a lot of people say, well, they're double dipping, they're getting this and that. I think as Muskogee people, we could sit down and we can talk this out. I think, like for one thing, Coweta does, like the community in Coweta. If you come and you ask for a crisis financial assistance, you have to have a letter from our social services here at Creek Nation stating that you've been denied, to make sure there's no double dipping. And I don't see why we can't have a working relationship with the tribal towns to just, work closely with each other and provide as much financial assistance to our people as we can without double dipping. That seems to be the big issue there. But our tribal towns, they are Muskogee people. And I really had a hard time with it because I thought, we come from different tribal towns and we have diverse names, our tribal towns, but as a confederacy and everything, and since we've been here, I would rather see us stay together than to go apart. I'd rather see us work together and flourish than to turn our backs on each other. And I appreciate the opportunity to say something, and the whole ideal of our government is to represent our people. And I think, I believe in quality service and quality contact, and I think we have room to improve there. And I think we've got to come up with some creative ways for economic diversity. I'd like to see us join with the Choctaws and the Chickasaws and the Cherokees. We seem to be behind, but I attribute that a lot to there's divisions that we've got to clear up. We've got to get past all the personal and really concentrate on the professional. And as far as the candidacy goes, I wish everybody luck. And I would say this, though. I would say if you have to, how would you say it, trick somebody to get their votes, then you might not be a good candidate. But I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.